The Mariners have made a stunning trade. Jarred Kelenic, Marco Gonzalez, Evan White, and Cash to the Braves. Jackson Kowar and Cole Phillips to the Mariners. Let's talk about it here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Sunday, December 3rd, 2023. This is Trident Gonzalez and Colby Padnote for the Locked On Mariners podcast, brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn. That's LOCKEDON to get yourself started. Thank you so much for making us your first listen. Subscribe, like, and turn on alerts if you're watching on YouTube, or subscribe and leave a 5-star review on your preferred podcast platform if you like what you hear. If you're part of the crew and rock with us every single day, let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. And if you want to hear from us even more, please consider signing up for our Patreon. You can now get a free 7-day trial to check out the show. The link, as well as our social accounts, is in the description of this episode. So here I am enjoying my Sunday night. And all of a sudden, I see the Mariners have traded Jarred Kelenic to the Braves. It's Kelenic, Marco Gonzalez, Evan White, and Cash for pitchers Jackson Kowar and Cole Phillips. And I'm going to be honest, I'm still processing this. Found out about 20 or so minutes after the rest of you. So I'm behind in processing my feelings on this one. So you're going to see me probably go through a little bit here on the show, live on the show. So Colby, what the hell is going on here?
Jerry's a genius and you all are haters.
Oh no. Oh no.
No. No. Okay. Yeah, I told you I stayed up to choose violence tonight.
Yeah, he did say this before we got on that.
Let me tell you the brilliance of this trade.
Oh no.
I got nothing. So how do you want, I feel like we should start with what they gave up, because obviously
Sure.
that's the shell shocking point. Then later we'll get into what they got and then what this could mean. I think is probably just the natural progression.
Sure.
So obviously a big part of this trade, without knowing the exact dollar figure, is the money you save in trading what are unquestionably bad contracts of Marco Gonzalez and Evan White. Evan's due about $7 million this year. Marco was due 12.5. Evan had a couple more. I think he had another year on his deal after this year for like $11 million. So Mariners clear quite a bit of payroll from a guy who, in Evan White, is not proven that he's a major leaguer at all. So there's a pretty good chance he gets DFA'd. Atlanta probably puts him back in the minors, but I wouldn't rule out that they just put him in free agency and Seattle re-signs him. Wouldn't shock me at all. But Evan's not a major leaguer, and that's unfortunate. I really like Evan White, but he can't stay healthy. He hasn't hit at the big league level. It's a bummer, and obviously, I wish he would have stuck around in Seattle. But if you have the opportunity to get that money off your books for a guy, again, who's you cannot even consider a major leaguer, you should consider that a win. Not to all extents, but you should consider that a win. Then obviously the big one here is the big one in terms of, like fan favorite is Marco, who, put in a lot of good years here, stuck through the rebuild. He was here before the rebuild started. He went through it and he came out the other side, and he's a big part of kind of rebuilding the culture of Seattle, of the Seattle Mariners. And it's an absolute bummer, but the simple fact of the matter is that Marco's not a major league quality starting pitcher right now. Or if he is, he's very, very fringe number 5 starter. Again, it's a real bummer because Marco's great. His family's great. They really, ingrained themselves in the city of Seattle, and it's a blow. Like there's no denying that. And this is the ugly business of baseball, is that sometimes you have to say goodbye to players that you grow really fond of because they just don't fit anymore. And Marco, coming into this offseason, was probably the 6th or the 7th guy in the rotation. And we know the Mariners are actually looking to add to the rotation a little bit too. So it was very clear the Mariners did not see Marco as part of the long-term, plan here. And even though he only had a year left, again, to be able to clear any of that $12 million does have value to mid-market teams. And that's what Seattle is. Now, again, we'll argue in a minute about whether or not this is an appropriate trade to make, even if you're clearing salary. But obviously, losing Marco, who is just a great human being and really, gave his all to Seattle, that sucks. It really does.
Yeah.
We'll see if Atlanta wants to carry him at the very least. If he does get to be on the Atlanta roster for an extended period of time, he went to a really good team, and he went to a team that is also understands how to help pitching. So it's a pretty good landing spot for Marco, but it sucks. It really does. And so
yeah,
I understand missing Marco, even though just like
we were probably coming to the separation at some point.
Yeah.
Right.
If it wasn't today, it was probably going to be in May or, March or it's a bummer still. It feels kind of unceremonious, but if you take away all the emotion from it, Marco Gonzalez is not worth $12.5 million. And he was, he wasn't one of your 5 best or one of your 6 best probably. So
right.
You try and look at that logically.
All fair. But now we get to what it
now
cost you to get rid of those contracts. Yeah.
Yes. Who, had a bit of a breakout year for you. No question. Took huge strides.
Yeah.
But we still don't know if he's a major leaguer, like an everyday player.
Right.
He's a major leaguer. We don't know if he's an everyday player. And, there's a possibility that maybe his, I don't want to say his act, but maybe his issues controlling his emotions finally caught up to him in Seattle, and they just wanted to try something else. But it's unfortunate to me that you have to trade a talented player like Kelenic, who is still, he's still got 5 years of club control left. He's, hasn't even hit his prime. He's like 24 years old, and he's coming off his best season in the big leagues. I feel like we all know what's about to happen with Kelenic in Atlanta. He's going to have a very nice career going forward. And it sucks that John Stanton has put Jerry DiPoto in a position where he has to prioritize $15 million over, kind of catching the upswing of Jarred Kelenic's career. But that's kind of what it appears this trade is, because if that's not what the case is, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. And it's not something Jerry would do. So to me, this screams that, either the Mariners or and we'll get to this again a little later, so I don't want to dive too deep, but either the Mariners are trying to do something big salary wise, or that, the ownership is prioritizing profit and is not letting Jerry and Justin do the job of building the best baseball team they can. They're putting up roadblocks. Build the best baseball team you can with this amount of money, and we're not going to give you more ever. Like, this is what you get. So it's a bummer, because Kelenic also, like, he was the guy who kicked off the that trade signified like what the Seattle Mariners could be, what they were planning on being. And you stuck through them through some really lean years, and you developed them. And then you finally see it, blossom and come to fruition for the first half. And
it does feel like, when you bring it up from that perspective, it feels almost like a betrayal of the Kelenic deal, right? Just to, especially when he's starting to finally come into his own, to just attach him to a salary dump. It's disgraceful, quite frankly. Like, I'm sickened by it. Like, the more now it's like starting to settle in for me. This is gross. This is really gross, especially when you compound it with the Divish article last night, which I know a lot of you asked us to talk about on the mailbag tomorrow. And I'm sure the mailbag is going to change a lot. If we even do a mailbag tomorrow, we'll have to figure that out. But
we're doing a mailbag, and we're not making the entire thing about Jarred Kelenic.
Well, but maybe there's something else here. And again, we'll talk about that later on. But there might be something else that crops up here that we'll have to talk about tomorrow. But if Jerry DiPoto and Justin Hollander are being restricted financially to an even more significant degree than I think all of us really imagined or expected here, this is disturbing.
Yeah, like I said, I'm annoyed that Jerry and Justin can't just make the best baseball moves that they can. They have to also constantly have this restriction placed on them, and it's not fair. It's not fair to the fans. It's not fair to Jerry and Justin. It's not fair to this clubhouse. It's not fair.
And
to
Jerry
Scott
DiPoto
Service.
said, like, payroll is going to go up this offseason. but so far we've seen it significantly go down. So
Right.
is that a matter of Jerry thought he was going to have more going into the offseason, and now Stanton, for one reason or the other, has pulled the rug out from under him, which we know has happened in previous off seasons where Jerry thought that he was going to have more to work with and then didn't? Is that what's happening here? Or is there a bigger plan here? And that's obviously the cope, right? That's the hope amongst Mariners fans right now. I mean, that's really all you can do at this point, is hope that this leads to more, rather than this is just, we're trying to get rid of as much salary as possible.
Is it cope or is it logic? We'll talk about that in a minute. But first.
Right. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. Good job, Colby. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and a whole lot more. And the Mariners might not be playing right now, but the Kraken and Seahawks are. So whether the action is on turf or on the ice, whether it's Jared McCann or Geno Smith, you can bet on it all with FanDuel. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's LOCKEDON, and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the National Football League. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you again for making us your first listen after the Jarred Kelenic trade. And as a reminder, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, what does this trade mean? What is the purpose of this trade beyond just freeing up more payroll? And we still don't know exactly how much money they are saving here. There is cash going to Atlanta in this deal. How much is going to Atlanta? We have no idea. I would imagine, though, if the Mariners were willing to attach Jarred Kelenic to this thing, that the Braves are eating a significant chunk of the White and Gonzalez deals. So we'll call it a cool $20 million for the full, allotment of money here between the three guys the Mariners have traded
for this year.
And for 2024. We'll say, I mean, just to be safe, and maybe it's more, maybe it's less, let's just say it's $15 million for the sake of the conversation.
As in the Mariners send the Braves $5 million.
As in the Mariners have sent...
They send them 25%.
Essentially, yes.
Sure. Just for easy math.
So this obviously says a lot about ownership, at least in theory, right? It says a lot about ownership and how much Stanton is willing to spend and afford Dipoto and Hollander to spend on their ball club right now.
Certainly looks that way.
So from the front office's perspective, what's the practicality of this? What do you think they're doing this for?
Well,
don't say it.
He used to play for a division rival. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Oh, no.
Interesting little note that just came by.
Okay.
According to the Braves general manager, Anthopoulos, I think is how you pronounce it.
Yeah, Alex Anthopoulos. Yeah.
He said this deal came together today, as in like it started today and they finished it today, which tells me that the Mariners have something close. They have something that they felt like they needed the money for right now. Now, that could be, maybe it's a Yamamoto. Maybe it's desperation to sign Yamamoto, who sounds like his market is climbing to near the $300 million range. Maybe it's two things. Maybe it's Randy Arozarena and, Max Kepler. Kepler was quickly thrown out there, and Randy Arozarena kind of hearing conflicting reports about the Mariners' interest in him, but, those two guys would make roughly what you just saved. And then the big one, which is being talked about by like John Boy Media, threw out like a little tweet about Juan Soto and Julio hanging out and stuff like that. So the problem with the Juan Soto thing is that it's not just the money you cleared. Now you're going to have to go trade like probably Miller, Wu, and a really good prospect package. We saw what the Yankees
and
what
only
they
get
wanted.
Juan Soto for 1 year.
Yeah, and we saw what apparently what the Braves or what the Padres were trying to get from the Yankees for Soto. Like that just to me doesn't make a lot of sense. So unless they love Bryce Miller so much that it's him straight up, and even that doesn't make a ton of sense for me. So
and also it feels a bit weird that after you clear salary, you're going to go add a $33 million player for 1 year, for just 1 year.
Yep.
Like that just seems so anti Jerry DiPoto, anti what this front office has been about. So I just cannot imagine that this is for Soto, that this is a precursor to Soto.
Yeah, it might not. And obviously today, who was it, Morosi or Rosenthal? He did mention, I think it was Rosenthal.
Both of
He
them.
did mention that the Mariners and Rays are like really, there are two teams to watch making a trade.
Yeah.
And, along with Randy Arozarena, there are a couple of guys making money on that Rays team that makes some sense. Perhaps somebody like Tyler Glasnow, who we know the Mariners are looking to add pitching. He might make some sense. We know that Brandon Lau is making some money. Play second base, play third base, left-handed power bat. He might make some sense. So there's a lot of different ways they can go with this. What I don't think is happening with this particular move is I don't think that Stan's just going to pocket the $20 million. And I'm giving him a lot of benefit of the doubt when I say that. But
well, why should we feel confident that that's the case, that he's not going to pocket that money, that the front office is actually doing this for, there's actual practicality to saving this money?
The fact that the deal came together in one day, tells me that there's something. The fact that the Mariners now have 4 open 40-man spots tell me that there's something. The fact that
we haven't heard that they were like actively shopping this idea. This literally came out of nowhere.
It tells me that perhaps the Mariners got told something in the last 48 hours that they were not expecting to hear in regards to money. Now, Yamamoto seems like that's the most likely case, but also we've heard Yamamoto is pretty heavily, considering the Giants, and they might be the favorite now. So, again, I'm just gonna throw it out there. There does leave that one guy who is just floating around out there. Yeah, I'm just saying, what if that's the difference? So again, I don't know what it is. We're all afraid to say Shohei Ohtani, but dude hasn't signed yet, so technically possible. But I think ultimately what this is about adding it's about, getting essentially bad players off your roster. No disrespect to Evan and Marco, who I like a lot, but it's about getting bad players off your roster and just kind of redistributing that $20 million, because at the end of the day, if it's hypothetically, let's say it's Bryce Miller, Jarred Kelenic, Evan White, and Marco Gonzalez and then I don't know, Jonathan Clase, just to even out these trades.
Right.
What if you traded all of that so that you could afford Randy Arozarena and Max Kepler? Are you not better? Because I think you are. So
depends on what you're doing. Depends on what your plan is pitching wise. So the other thing we have to acknowledge right now is like you now have 2 outfield spots open. You have, in theory, a spot in the infield somewhere, third base, second base, maybe even first base, that you need to address. DH spot is wide open right now. I mean, undeniably at this point, I said this after the Suarez deal, but now this can be applied even more so. The Mariners are going to undergo significant turnover on their roster this offseason. Significant. And they have massively changed the culture in that clubhouse. And right now, optically speaking, when you're trying to sell this to a clubhouse that literally finished the offseason saying we want our organization to support us more financially and go out and get some guys like the Rangers did, and they just watched the Rangers go win a World Series after paying big on guys like Jacob deGrom and Marcus Semien and Corey Seager, etc. And now the Mariners are going the other direction. This I don't want to blow this up too much because, a lot of the times clubhouse culture and all that stuff does get blown out of proportion. But this right now, as things currently stand, we'll see what they have up their sleeves, if anything. This feels like this could get really out of hand in that clubhouse.
It could. But can we stop for a minute with the whole
Sure.
"Oh, the Mariners are rebuilding again" thing? Really? They're rebuilding because they
Well,
traded a declining third baseman and a young outfielder? Really?
Well, that does not line up when we hear that they're in on Isaac Paredes or Randy Arozarena or what have you, right? So something's not lining up here. I just don't know what. I don't know.
It's almost like we don't have the whole picture yet
Yeah, we don't
on
have the whole
December
picture.
3rd.
We don't have the whole picture. But what is the whole picture? What is this all leading up
I
to?
don't know.
That's the key to all of this, right? But I don't fully
Apparently.
trust that this trade is actually going to lead to something else. I don't fully
I don't
trust it.
think that it can't, if that makes sense. So
Right. I think that's what's likely happening here. The logical side of me is telling me, yeah, that is what's happening here. There is a bigger plan here, but there is a part of me, I have to admit it, that is a little bit worried here that like they're just shedding payroll.
apparently all it took was for the Mariners to trade Jarred Kelenic for Ty to lose his nerve. That didn't have that on my bingo card this offseason.
But
But
things just somehow continue to get worse. Like things just seem to they're looking worse and worse.
gonna be hard to
And
find a 110 WRC plus outfielder, corner outfield bat.
stop
Is it?
this. Stop this. This
Is
is
it?
why people call you a bootlicker and me by
You've
association.
already replaced Gino with somebody better.
I don't know. We could say that.
I don't know. Yeah. I think you probably will end up doing that, but obviously you can't say that quite
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah.
I don't like I get it. Like I'm not trying to make light of people who are really upset with this deal because it doesn't make any sense in a vacuum, and because we don't get to see the whole picture and we're not privy to the conversations that are going on with other agents and other teams. We don't know what the deal is, and honestly, we don't know what the Mariners payroll situation is. Like a lot of people are speculating. It's really easy on days like today to point to it and be like, "Yep, obviously," but we still don't have any evidence whatsoever or any more evidence to suggest that the Mariners are only going to spend 120 as we do that they might spend 180. We really don't. We have loose speculation from Ryan Divish. We have loose speculation from Daniel Kramer, who aren't hearing these things from the Mariners themselves. They're hearing them from teams that are negotiating. And if you're hearing these things from teams that are competing against the Mariners, do they benefit from leaking out there that the Mariners have a really restricted payroll this year? Yes, they do. So I don't know what to trust. I think obviously if you just look at the evidence that we have in front of us, yeah, the payroll isn't going to go up nearly as much as it should. I think that's the most logical conclusion to draw. But it's not a slam dunk. We don't know. And also, by the way, I'll say this again in case Ty forgot, because apparently he has. I don't care what the final payroll number is, as long as you're net better at the end of the year
Oh,
or at the end of the offseason.
At the end of the day, build the best ball club that you
Right.
can.
We have
I mean,
10
some could
weeks.
argue that the only way that you can do that is by spending money. But if you build
It certainly helps.
if you build what I can look at going into pitchers and catchers reporting and say they have a legitimate chance to compete for a division and ultimately compete for a championship, then I don't care what you spent.
Right. And I don't care. I don't care who you lose along the way, as long as you replace them. So they got 10 weeks roughly until pitchers and catchers report. Let's just give them that much time at the very least. But I get it. Like I said, this deal doesn't look good on paper, although I think it looks better than a lot of people think.
This does feel like something else is coming at the winter meetings.
It feels like it has to. The winter meetings start tomorrow. We heard more Mariner buzz today than we have all winter. Real fast, quick note here from Adam Jude. He said, I'll just read the tweet. Mariners continue to methodically shed payroll with this deal, but Jerry DiPoto just told Daniel Kramer and me, and I, come on, Adam, that payroll, quote, very likely will rise from what it was at the end of 2023. Mariners remain in the market for multiple bats. So kind of just GM speak, but double down again.
Okay. So, all right. So let's say, so they were at 133, I believe, heading into tonight, heading into the steal. if we're just going to play it safe again and say that it's $15 million shed, that's 118. They finished where at the end of 2020? At the end of 2023, Colby. Like
Where did they finish at the end of last year? It was about 140.
So they have at least.
143.
So if they're going to exceed that, then they have at least $30 million to play with in 2024 payroll. I think that would be fair.
About, yeah. To get back to where they were last year, they'd have 30.
25, 30? Okay.
Be about 30. Because I think it was 146 was where they ended last year, and they're at 112, 113, depending on how much money they sent to Atlanta.
Okay. Well,
quick another little we could legitimately do this podcast for an hour if we were allowed to.
Yeah.
But,
no, we should talk about what they're getting.
Right.
Or do you want to
just
say
real
that
fast
for tomorrow?
You want to say that for tomorrow?
I don't know.
Let me tell you, like
I know there aren't many people out there right now that want to hear about what the Mariners are getting.
I know, but I feel like it would help because I like the notes I've gotten.
Let's cope. Let's cope.
Hold on. One last Jerry Dipoto quote, because I'm sure everybody's in the mood to hear from Jerry right now.
Right.
This comes from Daniel Kramer. Jerry Dipoto indicated that the Mariners intend to be, quote, industrious with the payroll flexibility that tonight's trade freed up. Quote, we do intend to go out and put it to immediate use to make our team better.
Immediate use.
It feels like something is.
They've got something. They know
something's cooking.
They know something is happening. Like it's not. Right.
They're
think something is happening. They know
that
it's happening.
Gonna go down. Yeah, here. Yeah, maybe it's like Woodruff and Adames. Just throwing that out there. But anyways, let's talk about what they got. Oh yeah. Sorry, Burns.
Yeah.
I always get them mixed up.
Because I was like, it's a pitcher that's not going to pitch
it's like,
until 2025.
Rosario and Andres Jimenez or whatever. I'm always like,
right.
Which one's the shortstop? Which one should be playing shortstop?
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
But,
so the Mariners are getting back a major league pitcher in Jackson Kowar, former Florida product.
It's a bit strong of a statement.
Fringe major league pitcher. He has pitched
40-man
innings.
roster.
He has thrown innings at the major league level.
He sure has.
Yes.
That is the correct way to put that. Yes.
I think we liked Kowar coming out.
We did.
That was like the first draft you and I talked. That was the first draft you and I covered, quote unquote. So they're getting Kowar. They're also getting a minor league pitcher named Cole Phillips. He's a righty as well. So yeah, what do you got for us on that? Cope. I need that sweet,
it's
delicious.
Not Cope. It's really not. Like, I think that Phillips is a legit get for the Mariners.
Okay.
Is he worth, Jarred Kelenic?
No.
Is he worth it if you dump $20 million? Probably still no, because I would like the Mariners to be in a position, and they absolutely are. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. John Stanton is in a position to just eat that $20 million and just, keep Kelenic too, but whatever. Jerry clearly isn't, and that's annoying. But Phillips is a legit prospect. He is 20 years old. He was a second round pick in the 2022 draft. He's good size, 6'3", about 200, 210, electric fastball, upper 90s. He, hit triple digits in a few games, but he mostly sits 95 to 97. And this was again at 18, 19 years old as, a prep basically. And it is a good breaking ball. Now, I've seen some people refer to it as a curveball. I've seen some refer to it as a slider. Obviously, I don't have film on the guy, but it is a good breaking ball. He was a guy who was seen coming out of the draft as a guy with helium, like his stuff was actually ticking up as he was getting drafted. And then unfortunately, Tommy John surgery after he was drafted, has not pitched in pro ball yet. So it's going to be a while, right? This isn't a quick get back to the big leagues type of thing. But this is a guy whose profile, when he was drafted in the second round, double plus fastball, upper 90s with some run, good breaking ball, probably projects to be 55, 60 grade, usable changeup, good size, fringe average control. So one of the comps that, that I saw when doing my quick little research on him, probably a little smaller, but Nathan Eovaldi, like that type of velocity, that type of stuff. And again, there is obviously huge reliever risk, but that's true of every single pitcher not named George Kirby and Logan Gilbert. So this is a guy, I think he's probably going to be, I'd say top 12.
Is he the best pitching prospect in the Mariners system now? Obviously, low bar to clear relative.
Right. In terms of just raw stuff and upside, yes, I think he's ahead of Teddy McGraw. But because he hasn't pitched yet professionally, it's kind of hard to put him in that range. But I think yes, he represents the best chance at having an ace in the Mariners' entire system right now. And
Right.
again, it's not a good chance. I want to make sure. Like, I'm not saying that he's an
Right.
ace or anything like that, but
Right.
this is a guy who, if he can get back healthy, and the Mariners have to feel pretty good about where his elbow is, the medicals on his elbow. If he can get back and he can get into the rotation, this number 3 profile. We'll see how he rebounds from Tommy John. This first year out is probably going to be a little shaky. It's the second year where we'll have to see. And if he doesn't, it screams high leverage reliever too in 2 or 3 years if they really want to speed him up. So I'm hoping to get more like not film, but I'm hoping to see, more videos of him throwing to see what the windup looks like. I'm hoping to hear more from a couple, of the people in the scouting community that I can actually talk to. But just based on the stuff that he had coming out of school, coming out of the draft, I really like this arm. I think this is the chance to be at least a number 4 starter with serious upside to be a top of the rotation guy and a pretty high floor, again, assuming health, where he's at least a mid leverage reliever with a wicked fastball curveball combo. He's 20 years old. Again, it's going to be 3 or 4 years, but I think there's legit upside here. I think I would put him ahead of I'd probably put him ahead of like the Class A, that tier. I think he's at least in that tier, if not above it. Like, I really like that arm.
So the other thing to note here with trading Kelenic, it's another high strikeout guy gone. The Mariners have just outright said no strikeouts this offseason.
I'm gonna
Except
really
for
laugh.
Sebby Zavala.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna really laugh when they go trade for Brent Rucker too. Like, we got to cut down on strikeouts. It's part of the reason we trade Kelenic. 32% strikeout guy. Yeah.
Hey, we just signed Brandon Belt. 34% strikeout rate. Yeah.
Interesting. There's so many, but the Mariners traded another left-handed bat, and they keep talking about how they want to add right-handed bats. Kind of feels like they need to add a lefty back in this lineup. I'm sure we'll talk about all this at a later date.
Juan Soto, obviously, or Shohei Ohtani.
I'm just saying,
obviously.
Ohtani. What side of the plate does Ohtani hit from?
Cody Bellinger, obviously. Yeah.
Interesting. But seriously, Max Kepler, my boy, right here. So connection right there.
All right.
But,
so
again, we could talk about this for an hour, and obviously, I'm sure we'll have some questions that are connected to this in the mailbag tomorrow. And unless they make another major deal, I imagine we'll talk a lot about this on CTZ tomorrow as well, especially as Ty wraps his head around the fact that I'm right, he's wrong. This deal's going to work out great.
I'm just still catching up, to be honest with you. I'm still processing my emotions with this.
All joking aside, I totally get it. Like, I totally understand where, if you're understanding this deal and you're looking at it from the optimistic lens, totally get it. If you're just screw John Stand, screw the Mariners, I'm out, I think you're lying to yourself. But I get it. I get the reaction. I really do. Like,
about
you're
being
not gonna
out.
You're not going to boycott the Mariners because they traded Jarred Kelenic. Get out of here with your not. I'll talk to you in 3 days when you calm down. Okay, but yes, on the surface, I totally understand the angst that Mariner fans are feeling right now. Absolutely, I'm mostly there with you. I'm just trying to keep my head on the bigger picture.
Cool that Jerry said, payroll's still going to go up. He doubled down on all this. Yeah, that great. Go do it.
Yep,
do it.
That's the only way.
Can we actually get a move here this offseason that I don't have to like
a pure addition?
Yeah, just like, I don't want to cope myself into anything. Can I just get a good player? Can we just get a good player?
If they traded for Isaac Paredes tomorrow, you would still have to cope your way into liking that.
Yeah, because I have concerns about that.
Isaac Paredes, 4-win third baseman who had 30 home runs last year. They could trade Tyler.
I have concerns about Paredes' bat. So
they could trade Emerson Hancock and like Josh Rojas tomorrow for him, and Ty would be like, "Ooh, I don't know. That's pretty."
At that point, I'm good. But
we'll see.
Yeah,
I do think a move is coming. So I don't think this is the only emergency podcast we're doing this week. That would be my prediction.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty safe bet, I would say.
I wouldn't be shocked if it was too.
Especially with the smoke around the Rays right now. And who knows, maybe they're going to do something very un-Jerry-like, very un-Mariner-like, and they are going to trade for Juan Soto. Who the hell knows?
I hope not.
You know what, man? I'll take it. I'll take whatever I can get at this point. I
kind of hope not, but whatever.
Yeah,
We'll see how it goes.
yeah,
Anyways,
yeah.
we got to go.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for being here, for watching this, for tuning into our show. I'm sure a lot of you. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of you are not feeling great. And I'm right there with you. I do not understand it as of now. Hopefully though, in a couple weeks or maybe even just a couple of days, we can look back on this trade with a little bit more clarity.
I'm going December 12th. Ty
December
finally
12th.
goes, I get it.
All right. I mean, there's a very easy way to make me get it.
Shohei Ohtani, baby. Ohtani or bust.
Yeah.
Putting all my eggs in that basket.
All right. Well, we'll see how I feel tomorrow. But hope you enjoyed this. For Colby Patnode, I'm Trident Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. Follow me at Dan Gonzalez, TANEGNZLZ, and Colby at CPAT11, that's CPAT11. You can also find all that stuff in the description of this episode. Thank you again for making us your first listen. Have yourself a beautiful baseball night, and we'll see you next time. Peace.